James Harden. What if the Thunder never traded him away?
James Harden. In 2012, the Oklahoma City Thunder had a chance to build the next dynasty. They had three young stars, Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, and Harden, all under 24 years old. Harden had just won Sixth Man of the Year. He was deadly from three, crafty in the pick and roll, and already showing MVP potential. But here's the twist. The Thunder offered him a 4-year, $55 million deal. Harden wanted closer to the max. Instead of paying him, the team traded him to the Houston Rockets. Now imagine if Harden stayed. 3 future MVPs on the same roster. Durant's scoring, Russell Westbrook's athletic explosion, Harden's playmaking. It could have been unstoppable. In 2012, they had already made the NBA Finals. With more time, they might have won multiple championships, maybe even built a dynasty to rival Golden State years later. Harden's role might have stayed smaller at first, slowing down his rise to MVP status, but the chemistry of that trio could have changed the entire league. LeBron's Heat super team might have faced their biggest challenge from Oklahoma City. Instead, the Thunder broke apart what could have been an empire. Harden became a star in Houston, but the world never got to see how far that original Thunder trio could go together. And the league was left with one haunting question. How many rings did Oklahoma City leave on the table?
Derrick Rose. What if he never got injured?
Derrick Rose. The Chicago Bulls drafted him #1 overall in 2008, and instantly the city had hope again. Rose wasn't just quick, he was lightning. Rookie of the Year, highlight after highlight, and by 2011, he became the youngest MVP in NBA history at just 22 years old. That season, Chicago won 62 games, the best record in the league, and fans believed they finally had someone who could take down LeBron James and Miami's Big Three. But then came the nightmare. Game 1 of the 2012 playoffs against the Sixers. Rose drove into the paint, landed awkwardly, and tore his ACL. Just like that, the dream ended. Rose missed the entire next season, and even when he came back, more injuries piled up. Knees, ankles, one setback after another. The player who once dominated defenders with speed and power never truly got back to that level. Now imagine if the injury never happened. The Bulls would have faced LeBron every single year, creating one of the NBA's greatest rivalries. With Joakim Noah, Luol Deng, and a young Jimmy Butler beside him, Chicago had the pieces to win. Rose could have stacked MVP-level seasons, led deep playoff runs, and maybe even delivered a championship back to the city of Jordan. His career stats could have been Hall of Fame level. Instead, Rose became the ultimate what-if story. Fans saw flashes of brilliance, but the legend we were promised was stolen by fate.
Michael Jordan, Steph Curry, Luka Doncic, Dirk Nowitzki. What if draft night went differently?
Michael Jordan. In 1984, the Portland Trail Blazers held the 2nd overall pick. They needed a center, so they passed on Jordan and took Sam Bowie. But what if they took MJ instead? Pairing him with Clyde Drexler would have been one of the most explosive backcourts the league had ever seen. Portland could have become a dynasty in the West, while Chicago never gets its icon. Without Jordan, the Bulls remain just another team, and the entire NBA shifts. Steph Curry. In 2009, the Minnesota Timberwolves had back-to-back picks at 5 and 6. They chose Ricky Rubio and Johnny Flynn, letting Curry fall to Golden State at 7. But what if Minnesota grabbed him? Curry's shooting could have transformed the Timberwolves into the first lab for the three-point revolution. The Splash Brothers never form in Golden State. Instead, Minnesota becomes the birthplace of modern basketball. Luka Doncic. In 2018, the Phoenix Suns held the #1 pick. Despite Luka already being a EuroLeague MVP at 19, they went with DeAndre Ayton. But what if they picked Luka? Pairing him with Devin Booker would have given Phoenix one of the deadliest backcourts ever. The The Suns might have reached the finals even earlier than 2021, and the Mavericks' rise never happens. Dirk Nowitzki. In 1998, the Milwaukee Bucks drafted him at 9, but traded him to Dallas. If they kept him, Dirk would have paired with Ray Allen and Glenn Robinson, forming a dangerous trio. Milwaukee could have reshaped the East with spacing years before the league was ready.
Carmelo Anthony. What if the Pistons drafted him instead of Darko?
Carmelo Anthony. In the 2003 NBA Draft, Detroit held the number 2 pick. LeBron went first to Cleveland, leaving Carmelo on the board. Instead of grabbing the high-scoring forward from Syracuse, the Pistons went with Darko Milicic, a raw big man they thought would complete their lineup. But what if they took Carmelo? Detroit already had one of the best defensive cores in the league. Chauncey Billups, Richard Hamilton, Tayshaun Prince, Ben Wallace, and later Rasheed Wallace. They didn't need more defense. They needed firepower. Carmelo could have provided exactly that. His scoring ability was elite from day one. Imagine the 2004 championship run, but with Carmelo as an extra weapon. The Pistons probably still win that title, but the years after are where things change. In 2005, 2006, and 2007, when their offense stalled in the playoffs, Carmelo would have been the answer. A go-to bucket getter when defenses tightened and every possession mattered. Detroit might have stacked finals appearances, maybe even more rings. The question is chemistry. The Pistons' identity was all about team play, no egos, no superstar taking over. Adding a high-volume rookie could have caused friction. Even Rasheed Wallace once said Melo might have ruined the team's balance. But talent wins. And with Carmelo's scoring added to Detroit's suffocating defense, the Pistons might have built a mini dynasty. Instead of being remembered for one magical title run, they could have been remembered as the team that owned the East through the 2000s.
Kobe Bryant, Chris Paul, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson. What if trades changed everything?
Kobe Bryant. In the 1996 NBA Draft, the Charlotte Hornets selected a 17-year-old high school guard at number 13. His name was Kobe Bryant. But just minutes later, they shipped him to the Los Angeles Lakers for Vlade Divac. What if Charlotte had kept him? No Shaq-Kobe dynasty, no three-peat from 2000 to 2002. Instead, Kobe grows into a superstar in a small market. Without Phil Jackson's triangle offense or the Hollywood spotlight, his rise is slower. The East becomes a battleground, with Kobe facing off against Allen Iverson, Vince Carter, and a young LeBron. Meanwhile, the West misses one of its greatest dynasties. Chris Paul. In 2011, the Lakers thought they pulled off a blockbuster deal. CP3 to the Lakers, Pau Gasol to Houston, Lamar Odom and others to New Orleans. But then, David Stern vetoed it for basketball reasons. If it went through, Kobe and Chris Paul would have been unstoppable, a deadly mix of precision and firepower. Dwight Howard likely joins too, forming a Lakers super team. The Lob City Clippers never exist, and the NBA shifts to pick-and-roll dominance years before Golden State's rise. Steph Curry and Klay Thompson. That same year, Golden State actually offered both Splash Brothers for Chris Paul. Imagine that call going through. New Orleans suddenly has Curry and Klay, two shooters who would transform their franchise. But the Warriors? No dynasty, no three-point revolution, no banners in the Bay. The greatest shooting duo in history might have been remembered as Pelicans, not Warriors.
Brandon Roy, Greg Oden, Penny Hardaway. What if injuries never cut them down?
Brandon Roy. Drafted by Portland in 2006, he looked like the future of the franchise. Rookie of the Year. 3 straight All-Star teams. A guard who could score from anywhere, defend, and lead. But knee problems ruined everything. By 2011, with no cartilage left, Roy retired at just 27. What if he stayed healthy? With LaMarcus Aldridge beside him, Portland could have built a true powerhouse in the West. Roy's mid-range game and clutch ability would have made the Blazers a constant threat to the Lakers and Spurs. He had Hall of Fame talent, but fans only got flashes. Greg Oden. Taken number 1 in 2007 ahead of Kevin Durant, Portland believed he would anchor their defense for a decade.
but injuries wrecked him before his career even started. A fractured kneecap, multiple surgeries, and endless setbacks. What if Oden stayed healthy? Alongside Roy and Aldridge, Portland could have been unstoppable. Oden's size and defense might have changed the balance of power in the West, giving the Blazers a dynasty that never happened. Penny Hardaway. Drafted in 1993, Penny was Magic Johnson with a scorer's edge. 6'7", smooth handle, elite vision. By 1995, he and Shaq had already reached the NBA Finals. Then came knee injuries. Penny lost his burst, and Orlando broke apart when Shaq left for Los Angeles. But what if Penny never got hurt? Shaq might have stayed in Orlando, forming a dynasty in the East. Finals appearances wouldn't be rare, they'd be routine. Orlando could have been remembered as the team of the 90s, not Chicago.
Grant Hill, Yao Ming, Ralph Sampson. What if injuries never stole their primes? Grant Hill. Drafted 3rd overall by Detroit in 1994, Hill was a superstar from day one. Rookie of the Year, multiple All-Star appearances, a forward who could score, rebound, pass, and defend. By 2000, he looked like the next face of the NBA. But a devastating ankle injury destroyed his prime. Endless surgeries, even a life-threatening infection, cut down what should have been a Hall of Fame peak. What if he stayed healthy? The Pistons might have built a contender around him. Later, pairing with Tracy McGrady in Orlando could have created one of the most dangerous duos in NBA history. Instead of what if, Hill could have been remembered alongside Kobe, Duncan, and Shaq as one of the best of his era. Yao Ming. Drafted number 1 in 2002, Yao was a global icon. A 7'6" center with soft touch, averaging nearly 20 points and 10 rebounds a night. 8 All-Star selections in just 9 seasons, but foot and leg injuries ended his career in his early 30s. If Yao played 15 healthy seasons, he could have scored 20,000 points and 10,000 rebounds. Next to Tracy McGrady, Houston might have made deep playoff runs, maybe even reached the finals. And globally, Yao's influence could have grown the NBA in China even faster than it already did. Ralph Sampson. A 7'4" center drafted in 1983, he was Rookie of the Year, a 4-time All-Star, and part of Houston's Twin Towers with Hakeem Olajuwon. But injuries wrecked his knees, ending his dominance by the late 80s. If he stayed healthy, Houston could have battled Boston, the Lakers, and even a young Jordan for titles. Sampson and Hakeem together might have redefined big men a generation early. Len Bias, Dragan Petrovic, Ben Wilson. What if tragedy never took them away?
Len Bias. In 1986, the Boston Celtics drafted him 2nd overall. At 6'8", Bias was explosive, powerful, and already compared to Michael Jordan. But just 2 days later, he passed away from a cocaine overdose, never playing an NBA game. What if he lived? Bias would have been the bridge from Larry Bird's aging dynasty into the 1990s. Boston might have stayed on top longer, slowing down the rise of the Pistons and Bulls. Some even believe Bias could have rivaled Jordan himself. His story is one of the NBA's greatest tragedies. Dragan Petrovic. By 1993, Petrovic was one of the best shooters in the world. Playing for the New Jersey Nets, he averaged over 22 points per game while shooting 45% from 3. He was on the verge of becoming an All-NBA regular, but a fatal car accident ended his life at just 28 years old. What if he kept playing? Petrovic could have changed the way the NBA viewed European talent decades earlier. Multiple All-Star nods, maybe even Hall of Fame credentials would have been his. He opened the door for the international wave that later included Dirk Nowitzki, Pau Gasol, and Luka Doncic. Ben Wilson. In 1984, Wilson was the #1 high school player in the country. A 6'8" point forward from Chicago, scouts compared him to Magic Johnson, but at just 17, he was shot and killed in his hometown. If Wilson lived, He might have gone on to Illinois, then the NBA, becoming Chicago's first true hometown superstar before Derrick Rose. His story remains a symbol of lost potential.
Kevin Durant, Ray Allen, the Warriors? What if one shot changed everything?
Kevin Durant. Game 7 of the 2021 Eastern Semifinals, Brooklyn vs. Milwaukee. With just 1 second left, Durant hit a turnaround jumper over PJ Tucker. At first, it looked like the game winner, but replay showed his foot barely on the line. Instead of a 3 to win, it tied the game. The Bucks survived in overtime and went on to win the title. What if KD's shoe was an inch smaller? The Nets likely beat Milwaukee, head to the finals, and Durant adds another championship to his legacy. Giannis instead faces more pressure than ever. 1 inch shifted history. The Spurs, Game 6 of the 2013 Finals against Miami. San Antonio was up 3 with just seconds left. Chris Bosh grabbed a rebound, kicked it out to Ray Allen, and he hit one of the most famous shots in NBA history. Miami forced overtime and eventually won the championship. But what if the Spurs secured that rebound? Tim Duncan walks away with his 5th ring right then. LeBron's Heat super team crumbles under more finals failure, and history views both Duncan and LeBron very differently. The Warriors, 2019 Finals against Toronto. Kevin Durant tore his Achilles in Game 5. Klay Thompson tore his ACL in Game 6. Toronto won the series and their first title. But what if both stayed healthy? Durant's scoring and Klay's shooting could have swung the series. Golden State might have claimed a three-peat, the first in Shaq and Kobe. Instead, injuries ended a dynasty. Centimeters, 1 bounce, 1 tendon. Championships are measured in atoms.
Shaquille O'Neal. What if he never left the Orlando Magic?
Shaquille O'Neal. Drafted number 1 overall in 1992, he was a force of nature from the moment he stepped on an NBA court. By 1995, Shaq had already led the Magic to the NBA Finals alongside Penny Hardaway. Orlando looked like the team of the future, young, fast, and loaded with talent. But then, in 1996, everything fell apart. Contract disputes, criticism in the media, and a massive offer from Los Angeles pushed Shaq to the Lakers on a 7-year, $120 million deal. The move changed NBA history forever. But what if Shaq stayed? Imagine the Magic keeping their superstar in blue. With Shaq dominating inside and Penny running the floor, Orlando could have built a dynasty in the East. The mid-90s battles with Jordan's Bulls would have been legendary. Even if Chicago still won titles, Orlando would have been their toughest challenger. Shaq's presence might have even extended Penny Hardaway's career, taking pressure off him and preventing the injuries that derailed his prime. For the Lakers, no Shaq means no three-peat with Kobe Bryant in the early 2000s. The entire course of NBA dynasties changes. Instead of the Lakers dominating the new millennium, it could have been the Magic. Multiple finals runs, maybe even multiple championships. Orlando would have been remembered not just for neon jerseys and potential, but for rings, banners, and a dynasty that shook the league. Shaq leaving built one empire in Los Angeles, but if he stayed, Orlando might have built one of its own.
Tim Duncan. What if he signed with the Orlando Magic instead of staying in San Antonio?
Tim Duncan. By the summer of 2000, he was already an NBA champion and Finals MVP. But when free agency hit, the Orlando Magic made their move. They cleared cap space and recruited hard. The pitch? Paired Duncan with Tracy McGrady, who had just joined from Toronto, and Grant Hill, one of the league's most versatile stars. The Magic were ready to offer Duncan a 6-year, $67 million deal. He visited Orlando, toured the city, and strongly considered leaving San Antonio. What if Duncan said yes? The league would have shifted overnight. Orlando instantly becomes a powerhouse. McGrady's scoring and Duncan's efficiency could have dominated the East for years. Duncan was the ultimate system: bank shots, defense, leadership, while T-Mac was raw firepower. Add a healthy Grant Hill, and the Magic would have formed a super team before the era of super teams truly began. Meanwhile, San Antonio would have collapsed. Without Duncan, the Spurs never build their dynasty. Greg Popovich doesn't become a legendary coach. Tony Parker and Manu Ginobili likely never reach stardom. the Spurs go from a model franchise to just another team. In Orlando, Duncan and McGrady could have challenged Shaq and Kobe in the West, created finals clashes with Iverson's Sixers, or even spoiled LeBron's rise in Cleveland years later. Instead, Duncan stayed loyal to San Antonio, and the Spurs went on to win 5 championships. But if he had left, Orlando might have become the dynasty of the 2000s.
Bill Russell. What if the Hawks never traded him to Boston?
Bill Russell. In the 1956 NBA draft, the St. Louis Hawks selected him with the number 2 pick, but almost immediately, they traded him to the Boston Celtics for Ed Macauley and Cliff Hagan. That decision changed the course of basketball forever. In Boston, Russell became the greatest winner in sports history. 11 championships in 13 years, the anchor of the Celtics dynasty. But what if the Hawks had kept them? St. Louis already had Bob Pettit, one of the league's most dominant scorers and rebounders. Pairing Pettit's offense with Russell's defense would have been unfair. The Hawks made the finals 3 times during that era, even without Russell. With him, they might have owned the league completely. Titles in 1957, 1960, and 1961? Probably more. Russell's rebounding, shot blocking, and leadership could have turned the Hawks into the dynasty of the late 50s and early 60s. Meanwhile, Boston would never have become the Celtics we know. Without Russell, Red Otterbach never builds his defensive machine. The famous Celtic mystique, built on fast breaks and stifling defense, may not have existed at all. Bill Russell wasn't just great, he defined how basketball was played. So how many rings would the Hawks have won with Russell? 5? 8? Maybe even double digits. The entire history of the NBA would have shifted. Instead of green banners in Boston, St. Louis might have been remembered as the city of champions.
Magic Johnson. What if the Lakers never drafted him?
Magic Johnson. In 1979, the Los Angeles Lakers drafted him number 1 overall. It changed everything. Showtime basketball was born. The Lakers dominated the 80s, and Magic became one of the greatest players of all time. But here's the twist. That pick originally belonged to the New Orleans Jazz. Back in 1976, the Jazz made a deal to sign Gail Goodrich from the Lakers. As compensation, they had to give Los Angeles their 1979 first-round pick. That pick turned into Magic Johnson. If the Jazz had kept it, history looks completely different. Imagine Magic in New Orleans. Pair him with Pistol Pete Maravich, one of the most creative scorers in league history. 2 of the flashiest passers ever running the same backcourt. The Jazz might never have relocated to Utah. Showtime could have belonged to New Orleans, not Los Angeles. And for the Lakers, without Magic, there's no Showtime dynasty. No 5 championships in the 80s. The NBA's national popularity, boosted by Magic versus Bird, may not explode in the same way. Even Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's career would feel different without the perfect partner in Magic. Television audiences weren't just watching basketball in the 80s. They were watching Magic and Bird transform the game. Without Magic in Los Angeles, the Lakers don't glow in Hollywood, and the West doesn't sparkle the same. The entire NBA's rise into the modern era could have been delayed.
Michael Jordan. What if he never retired in 1993?
Michael Jordan. By 1993, he had already won 3 straight championships with the Chicago Bulls. At the height of his powers, the best player in the world suddenly walked away. Exhausted, grieving the loss of his father, Jordan shocked the sports world by retiring to play baseball. For nearly 2 years, the NBA had to live without him. But what if he never left? The 1994 Bulls still won 55 games without Jordan, led by Scottie Pippen. Add Michael back to that roster, and they likely reach 60 wins. They push past the New York Knicks and face Houston in the finals. With Jordan on the floor, do the Rockets still win those back-to-back titles in 94 and 95? Maybe they steal one, maybe none. The idea of Chicago winning 8 straight championships, something no team has ever done, becomes very real. And what about Jordan's legacy? 6 rings already cemented him as the greatest, but 8 straight would have been untouchable. The GOAT debate wouldn't exist. No comparisons to LeBron, Kobe, or anyone else. The conversation would have ended before it started. The ripple effect reaches everywhere. Hakeem Olajuwon's Rockets lose their dynasty moment. Clyde Drexler never wins a title in Houston. Patrick Ewing's Knicks stay stuck in the shadow of the Bulls. And for the NBA itself, Jordan's dominance would have made the league even bigger, even faster. Instead, the break gave others a chance to shine. But if Jordan never retired, basketball history might read like a sweep.
Kobe Bryant. What if the Lakers actually traded him in 2007? Kobe Bryant. By the summer of 2007, he was frustrated and furious. The Lakers hadn't won a playoff series since Shaquille O'Neal left, and Kobe felt the team wasn't giving him the help he needed. He demanded a trade. For a few tense weeks, it looked like the Lakers might actually move one of the greatest players ever. Chicago, Detroit, and Dallas all made offers. What if one went through? The Bulls were the closest. Kobe loved the idea of Chicago, but he refused to join if Luol Deng was included in the deal. Without that demand, Kobe could have been wearing a Bulls jersey. Kobe and Deng together? That's a defensive nightmare for the East. Add in prime Ben Gordon and Kirk Hinrich, and Chicago might have become instant contenders. The Pistons were another option. Imagine adding Kobe to the 2004 championship core of Chauncey Billups, Rip Hamilton, Tayshaun Prince, and Rasheed Wallace. Detroit's no superstar identity would have been rewritten overnight. Kobe's scoring and killer instinct could have turned them into repeat champions. And then there were the Mavericks. Mark Cuban almost pulled it off. A Kobe-Dirk pairing in Dallas would have been unguardable. 2 Hall of Fame scorers in their prime running the West together. If any of those deals happened, history changes. The Lakers never trade for Pau Gasol, never win titles in 2009 and 2010. Kobe still wins rings, but with a different team, and the map of NBA power shifts completely. Steph Curry. What if his ankles ended the Warriors' dynasty before it began?
Steph Curry. In 2011 and 2012, constant ankle injuries nearly derailed his career. Doctors questioned his future, and even Golden State's front office considered moving him. There were real trade talks, and at the time, Curry wasn't yet a superstar. He was seen as fragile. What if the Warriors had decided to give up on him? Without Curry, the Splash Brothers never exist. No Steph, no Klay Thompson shooting alongside him, no Steve Kerr building his revolutionary .5 offense. The three-point revolution doesn't start in the Bay Area. Kids don't grow up practicing from the logo. The Warriors never become a dynasty. Now, picture the alternate path. In 2012, there was a trade scenario with the Milwaukee Bucks. The Warriors nearly sent Curry away in a package. Imagine if that deal went through. A year later, Milwaukee drafts Giannis Antetokounmpo. Suddenly, Steph and Giannis are teammates. Curry stretches the floor with his shooting, Giannis dominates inside with unmatched power. That pairing could have been unstoppable. The Bucks would have had the greatest inside-out duo of all time. Steph pulling defenses to half court, Giannis breaking them at the rim. Titles might have come sooner to Milwaukee, and Giannis's rise could have been even faster with Curry by his side. Meanwhile, the Warriors fade into obscurity. No dynasty, no 3 championships in 4 years. The NBA's entire style of play looks different. One pair of fragile ankles almost stopped the most influential era in modern basketball.